For your first full week of February. Now, as always, I want to give a couple seconds as this pops up on your feed. We stream this on THV11 Plus, as well as it goes to our YouTube and our Facebook. So if you happen to be scrolling on Facebook and this comes up on your feed, want to give people a chance to bring this stream up. As always, if you have questions, I have all of our ways for you to send questions open. So you can either put those in the comments of the Facebook or the YouTube stream, or you can text a question to us 501-376-1111 and we can answer that for you during the stream. Of course, the big story for the week ahead is trying to get the last of the snow and ice out of here. But before we talk about what's coming up, I do want to talk a little bit about what we just saw over the month of January as a whole. Our time now is 2:31. So again, I'm going to give it just a few more seconds. Like I say, I have all of our comments popped up. I know people have still been asking about school closures for Monday. I do think we have an article running regarding school closures on our website. So I will readily have the answers for you regarding if your school district is going to be closed tomorrow. So I do encourage, if the question is regarding school closures with everything left over from our winter storm, go to our website and search that on THV11.com. All right, let's go ahead and get started today. We're gonna take, if we could take this image behind me full. This is just a recap of the month of January. We started the month off on a well above average note. Several days where we were in the 60s and 70s, and for a lot of people, they were wondering, well, where is winter? So we saw that change shift around the middle part of the month. First, that third week of the month, we spent a lot of days in the 40s and in the 50s, but the winter storm that we're still trying to recover from 9 days later, obviously that moved in Friday the 23rd. We had wintry precipitation falling the 23rd through the 25th, and then the week following we just stayed very cold, several days with highs not even getting above freezing. Then once we did start to see a few days above freezing, we're barely breaking into the 40s, and then we had another cold front sweep through on Friday the 30th, which is what kept us in the 20s yesterday for your last day of January. So I know everybody's probably tired of the cold right now and is wondering, well, when are things going to start to change? Well, with today being February 1st, we are in the last 28 days of what we call meteorological winter. You've heard me talk about our quote unquote meteorological seasons before. That is just the time frame where we mark those climate averages based off of the particular season. So for winter, meteorological winter runs from December 1st to February 28th, and then March 1st starts meteorological spring, and that'll go through May 31st. So even though we mark the astronomical seasons by our equinox and our solstices that are later on in the month, at the first month of each quarter, that's where we mark the start of our, like I say, meteorological season. So we are nearing the end of winter right now. Average high going into this first week of February is right in the lower 50s, 52 specifically in Little Rock. By the time we hit Valentine's Day, or right after Valentine's Day, what's considered average or normal will be in the middle 50s, and then by the end of the month, average for Little Rock or Central Arkansas will be nearing that 60-degree mark. So warmer days are ahead of us, and you don't even have to wait the whole month to see those warmer days. We got some warmer days ahead of us this week that is definitely looking to be beneficial with melting the last of the snow and ice. I'm bringing up this visible satellite because yes, you can see the temperatures and some of the clouds that are sweeping through portions of northeastern and eastern Arkansas, but the still white you see, that is through portions of eastern Mississippi into the eastern Arkansas into the Mississippi Delta and then over into West Tennessee. That is a lot of that leftover snow and ice pack. We got a little bit of that as well in the Arkansas River Valley and up in Northwest Arkansas, but I do think it's most prominent for you to visually see what I'm talking about into the eastern third of the state, from areas Batesville down to Searcy, Little Rock, Pine Bluff, and east of that. That white that you see, that's not moving because the clouds, you can see the clouds moving, improving, but that still white that's fading in and out with the timing of this imagery, that is the snow and ice pack that we're trying to slowly melt away. As you just saw yesterday, we did not even get above freezing. Luckily today at 2:30, we're at least up to 36 in the capital city, which is above freezing. And across central Arkansas, across the state, everybody with the exception of Jonesboro and West Memphis look to be above freezing right now. So it will be a little bit harder for areas in northeastern Arkansas closer to Jonesboro and West Memphis to get some melting done today, not just because of the clouds, but also those temperatures are below freezing. Now, bringing things back to central Arkansas and areas west, of course, because we don't have as much cloud cover, that sunshine is also playing a big help in trying to melt some things down. I'll tell you, when I was driving in this morning, the problem hasn't necessarily been the interstates and the main highways, it's been the neighborhoods. And I know from my personal experience driving through my neighborhood, there were some more improvements today that I have not seen over recent days because of how much warmer we're able to get right now, and then more of that sunshine. So let's talk about through the next couple days, or at least the next couple hours right now and the rest of the evening, what that looks like, because I think your overnight hours and early Monday is really what's going to determine for these school districts if the kids are going back tomorrow. So these are temperatures with your feels like temperatures, not as jarring of a difference in the feels like temperatures as what we saw Friday into Saturday when we had the cold weather advisory, but there is a light breeze that makes it feel a little chillier at times. So we have the room to warm up a little bit more this afternoon. Would not be surprised if we break at least 40 degrees in the capital city, but once that sun sets, we're going to quickly dip below freezing. By the time we're checking in tonight after the Grammys on THV11, we're likely going to already be below freezing, if not nearing the 30-degree mark. So by the time we get to midnight, already hitting the 20s. Overnight, our fully night low looking to be in the middle and upper 20s across central Arkansas. Areas north and east closer to, Jonesboro and West Memphis, what we were talking about earlier, possibly some low 20s and teens. The Clinton right now with a reading of 19 as your Monday morning low. So that's not going to be good for road conditions. Like we just said, it's been the neighborhoods, the county back roads that have had the most the least improvement over the past couple days. And I doubt that with the few hours of sunshine we have now, plus overnight temperatures, that's going to make any major improvement. So I would not be surprised if either A, we see a lot of schools call for, or school districts call for a delayed start, or if B, they just push it to Tuesday. I want you to, again, keep this in your mind where we're looking to start tomorrow morning based off of whatever city you live. Generally speaking, below freezing in the 20s. That matters when we are talking about road conditions, because at 29 degrees or below, roads are still icy. So even the melting that's able to happen today in places like Little Rock or to our north and west towards Russellville, or even up in northwest Arkansas, that those puddles that's developing, that slush that's developing, that's going to refreeze again overnight. You've heard us talk about that a lot these past 14 days about the refreeze factor. We're going to see that again tomorrow morning, and with temperatures in the middle to upper 20s, roads will likely still be icy. We're still going to be tracking ice patches on the interstates like we've been talking about the past few mornings, and even on those highways. We're not completely out of the dark yet, but we're not where we were when we rounded out the work week last week. So for the top of this new week, the top of your first week of February, Monday, actually above average. We were talking about earlier, average high for right now is 52. We're looking to see some lower and middle 50s on the board, going with 55 as your high in Little Rock, with mostly sunny skies. So again, the lack of clouds, getting to see that sunshine, that's really going to help with the melting factor. But we have not seen the 50s in a couple of weeks. So even by relative standards, 50s being much warmer, that's going to help us make some improvements. Obviously, It won't completely get rid of everything, but whatever is left, the hope is that once we get into Tuesday, we've got some scattered rain showers moving into the state. Some of that rain with those temperatures also in the 50s can help break down some of that ice and wash it away or help melt it away, which will make things better as we get into your Tuesday and Wednesday. And I also want to point out to you Tuesday morning's low, 38 degrees in the upper 30s. So I'm going to take us a step back. Once you get above 33, you're not dealing with as many problems as far as icy roads. Roads may still be wet, but not, frozen. So that's why I say if the schools don't do a delayed start on Monday, I definitely could see Tuesday being the day for safety wise. We go back. You'll just need to send the kids with rain gear. And I'll show you specifically which parts of the state the rain gear will be more of a necessity for. But that's something to think about. Monday morning, you might still have one more day with the kids at school, but Monday afternoon with the sunshine in the 50s, I do think we will see more improvements, especially for the areas that have been problem spots like in the shade. Even if you're not getting direct sunshine, I think the fact that we're getting into the 50s is going to be helpful. And then overnight, not looking to dip below freezing will definitely work in our favor as well, but with the rain starting to move in likely Tuesday afternoon, that'll help break some more things down as well. We could very well see some maybe stubborn pockets of snow and ice into Wednesday, but Wednesday, even though we're waking up likely right around the lower 30s, some places could be below freezing. We get above freezing again in the afternoon, so even with the cool down that's coming, it's not going to necessarily knock us below freezing and keep us from continuing to see things melt. Now, the rain on Tuesday is associated with a cold front that's moving through the state that day. That's why you see the difference from a couple of days in the 50s to where we'll spend a couple of days in the 40s. Let's talk a little bit more about that cold front on Tuesday. Actually, before I jump ahead, I want to take a moment to check the comments and make sure I don't have any questions. So bear with me, just checking. Like I said, we have comments, or you're able to leave your comments. You can either text those to us at 501-376-1111. You can leave them on our Facebook stream in the comment section or on the YouTube stream. So I'm just going through, making sure I don't see any questions right now. Yeah, I think the main thing is people still asking about school. So again, the information for school closures will be on our website at THV11.com. So let's move forward then to talk more about Tuesday and the cold front that we're expecting and what that means for rain chances. This is early Tuesday morning where you're waking up, you're seeing those morning lows like we just talked about, likely not dipping below freezing. In fact, some people probably waking up Tuesday morning in the 40s, maybe some right at the 50-degree mark for those extreme southern locations like Texarkana and El Dorado. At this point, winds are coming from the south ahead of that front. That front is starting to approach northwest Arkansas. Now through the afternoon and evening, let's actually slow this down a little bit because that moved so fast you couldn't even see any of the rain. So through the morning, rain coverage is building across the southeastern half of the state. This is middle day Tuesday, lunchtime Tuesday. That front is working its way through the state, and we're maintaining the rain primarily across the southeastern part of the state because that's going to be ahead of the front where we still have some moisture left to even produce the rain. That front is going to bring in some cooler air but also drier air, so that's why if you are able to pick up some rainfall maybe a little bit further north and west, it gets cut off pretty quickly as that front is moving through and cuts off your moisture supply, because by 6 p.m. Tuesday you see that front is now starting to exit the state to our southeast and it's pushing the rain with it as that colder or that drier air, is working its way south. So with the colder air coming in behind the front, Wednesday likely could be a morning where we wake up below freezing. But again, the goal here is that with highs on Monday in the low to middle 50s and almost uninhibited sunshine, we're going to see a lot of improvements. And then overnight into Tuesday, we don't even dip below freezing. So likely the progress we made on Monday, we don't necessarily lose it with the refreeze factor. And then as we can get some rain showers in on Tuesday, that helps try to break down some more of that stubborn thick layers of ice, and more of that can melt in the afternoon as the clouds are sweeping out behind that front. Now, there could be anything left over. There could be a refreeze factor with that overnight into your Wednesday. But again, as we saw a second ago, even on Wednesday, we get above freezing again. So we've been talking about patience a lot over the last week. We do have to get through a couple of more days of patience, but I do think by the time we get to the middle part of the week, if not Wednesday, Thursday for sure, things are going to start to look a little bit more like normal. You'll maybe be able to get to see some of the grass again. It might be dead, but you'll get to see a little more of the grass again. In regards to how much rain we're going to get, not a whole lot of rain is expected with these rain showers. Southeastern Arkansas, and by southeastern Arkansas, I'm speaking of areas from West Memphis through Stuttgart, Pine Bluff down to Camden towards Texarkana, areas south and east of that line I just drew there. That's where we're expecting at best 1/4 inch of rain, or at highest 1/4 inch of rain. Then the next band you see closing in on that I-30 line and up towards I-57. So some cities like Arkadelphia through Little Rock, maybe just shy of Searcy and Jonesboro, that could be 1/10 inch to 2/10 inch. Not a whole lot of rain though. And then once you get north and west of, those shaded bands, really not expecting much rain. But if that front is sweeping through sooner, even though you don't get a lot of rainfall, you might not spend as much of the day with cloud cover, because cloud cover, as we know, kind of limits some of the melting we're able to do because you're not getting direct heat from the sun. So all hope is not lost. Even if you don't get rain on Tuesday, that doesn't mean you're going to be dealing with the ice or snow longer. You'll just cool down a little bit quicker, but you'll get to see some more sunshine a little bit quicker versus the people dealing with the clouds and rain. So I've said a lot. The big thing that everybody needs to know bullet point wise as far as roads is this. If you've already been out this week and you've seen interstates are good, there are on your right hand or left hand shoulders, or those left hand or right hand most lanes kind of towards the edge, there have been little slick patches of ice that could still be a concern in the morning. So if you are going back to work in the morning commute, don't just speed on the interstates thinking everything is normal, because there are some patches at times. Main highways, there are still going to be spots of slush and ice through at least the middle part of the week due to the cool down Wednesday into Thursday. Problem spots that are often shaded could be until Friday. Side streets, county back roads, I do think they'll stay mainly ice covered, snow covered like they are through Tuesday. We'll see some improvements on Monday. I think Monday we can start to break things down a lot. Tuesday, like I said, that could be a day where you start to see some peaks of your grass again, some peaks of your asphalt again, but I think things will get even better towards the middle part of the week. Let's look ahead to a little bit farther down the line in February, because we've been talking about this first week of February, first couple days of February starts out on a nice note. I do think this is updated on me, so let me change my dates because I don't want anybody looking at this to get confused by the dates on this. So this is the newest 8 to 14 day outlook. When I put this together earlier, they had not dropped today's map. So I was about to show you yesterday's map, but today's map has just come out. Still favoring above average temperatures, or slightly above average temperatures across the natural state. When you say 8 to 14 days, that's accounting for the time period of February 9th to February 15th. So next week into your Valentine's Day weekend, if you have plans or trying to make plans with your Valentine, the good news is it doesn't look like it will be super cold. Now, obviously, these maps do not tell us what the temperatures are going to be. It gives the trend compared to what's considered normal, and what's considered normal during that time frame is a low in the morning of 34, which is above freezing, which is good. We don't really want freezing temperatures right now. And then in the afternoon afternoon, a high of 54. So even this first week where the average high is 52, by the time we get to the middle part of the month, we're already picking up to average high of 54. So if we're showing a trend that's above average, we could infer that that would give us numbers maybe in the middle 50s in the afternoon or the upper 50s. And then in the mornings, obviously middle 30s and upper 30s. So let's see how that translates though with the afternoon temperatures. This is our forecast. You know, at night at 10 o'clock, we give you the 11-day forecast. So this is just that showed in a different format. We talked about, again, we start the work week this week, your first week of the month, in the low to middle 50s. Cold front sweeps through on Tuesday. We spend a couple days in the 40s. Those really problem spots with the snow and ice, we may keep some of that up through about Thursday. But check this out, we round out your first work week of February. Some places could break 60 degrees. So we could start the weekend out next weekend on a high note with things looking a little bit closer to normal. There will be another front to sweep through. I do think that one is a little bit drier, so not much of a chance for rain with that front passing through. But that front passes through, it pushes us back into the low to middle 50s for next weekend. But that's right around where we're supposed to be. So, you know, a near normal weekend, we just have in Friday on a high note. We are slowly rebounding as we creep through this top of next week and through the middle part of the week. I think Valentine's Day is Thursday, so the day before Valentine's Day could be flirting with 60 degrees. Obviously at that point we're getting 10 to 11 days out, so there is room for the scenario with those numbers to change, but the trends right now, this is what that supports. So if you have not been enjoying how cold it's been these past almost 2 weeks, some relief is on the way. This is what we're looking at for the next week and a half. I also am just kind of browsing over our comments and text again to make sure we don't have any questions. Doesn't look like we have any questions, but something else I want to kind of show you. You probably heard us talk about this a couple of times through our winter storm coverage. If you have the THV11 Plus app on your TV or on any of your streaming devices, we have a section on there for you to look at live radar. So if you necessarily don't have time for a full newscast, but you heard there might be a concern for rain in the state and you want to get a quick check-in on where it is, you could pull it up on your TV. It runs 24/7. The QR code you see there is if you are watching this on your phone, you can try to scan this and say that, and that'll bring you up to how to find the 24/7 radar. I know a few people said it was very handy during the winter storm because you were able to see, you know, based off of your location where you were picking up snow versus ice. Ice could have been that sleet or that freezing rain. So as we get into severe weather season over the next couple of weeks, and when we do these Sunday streams, I'm going to be throwing in little tidbits about severe weather preparedness because that kicks off in March. This will be a great resource maybe if you don't have time to watch a full newscast or a stream, but you want to see what's happening on radar. We have that on our app now. We are going to close now with just another overview of this week, just your next 7 days, and then we'll round this out because I don't think we have just any major questions. Yes, okay, so as we've talked about, start the week out on a nice note, some sunshine on Monday. Monday we do start below freezing, and I think because we're starting below freezing, that might be the deciding factor for a lot of people as far as when we're going back to school tomorrow. If you didn't hear me say that earlier, details around school district closures can be found on our website. I don't necessarily have the answers to that, but you can find those answers on our website at THV11.com. My thought is if we don't go back to school tomorrow, we're definitely going back on Thursday, and likely with that rain gear. If you missed earlier where I was talking about what parts of the state specifically will have a better chance of getting that rainfall on Tuesday, come back at 5:30. I'll show you that again, talking about the week ahead, but that rain is coming through thanks to a cold front that's moving through the state. That'll give us a couple of days in the 40s Wednesday and Thursday, but we round out the work week on a high note. Could flirt with 60 degrees in the capital city. could see in with some more sunshine, but we do have another cool down coming for next weekend where we'll be back in the 50s, but it'll be a little bit closer to what's considered the norm for this time of year. By that point, the goal is to get all of the snow and ice out of here so things can get back to normal. In the meantime, I hope y'all have been staying safe. Y'all have been staying warm. We do still have a couple of more cold nights, maybe not as completely frigid as we've seen, but still cold. So make sure you're still checking on your loved ones. You're keeping your pets warm. You're doing what you can to protect those pipes overnight. We'll check back in again at 5:30, but have a great Sunday afternoon.